Welcome to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals, experience, and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. So Money on Tap, it's a podcast that we've been doing for the last couple of years, and it has been a lot of fun. Let me tell you who all of us includes. Brayshaw Financial Group was founded over 15 years ago. Is headquartered out of Bedford, New Hampshire. And we're a financial planning firm that helps individuals, small business owners to plan for the future. We have 12 offices in 8 states from coast to coast. So Money on Tap is what we call your financial headquarters, where each and every week we get together and we talk about financial topics that are important for you, our listeners, to consider as we live our lives each day. My name is Seth Krussman, and I'm a partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and head up the Hillsboro, Oregon office. I'm joined today by Ben Brayshaw, the founder of Brayshaw Financial Group, and John Ryder, a partner and principal with the firm, headed out of Bedford, New Hampshire. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Seth.
It has been fun working over the years here, and we've really enjoyed our time working together and giving people some things to think about when it comes to their money. So if you haven't tuned in before, we get together as advisors and speak each week about different topics of interest, kind of like a fireside chat, sitting around and chat. Now, to be clear, we can't always say that the topics are of interest to our listeners, because how exciting can you make tax planning? I know that can be a tall order, but we try to have fun talking about things that are relevant to the great majority of our audience. And even if it's not a fun topic, we try to have some fun with it.
What's relevant to me, John, is that it's been fun working with Seth for the last couple of years.
I think I know where this is going.
I really enjoyed working with Seth the last couple of years.
And you even more have enjoyed with me. I understand that, Ben. That's good. Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Words in my mouth.
Don't worry, John. It comes around for full circle, because I've really enjoyed working with you the last couple of years, John.
Kumbaya, guys. This is just fun. This is fun.
Amen.
All right. There are a lot of people that want to know, what kind of planning do we do for our clients? We like to call it three-dimensional planning. And this is where we have an opportunity to help our clients, really from every direction when it comes to planning. We utilize insurance planning, brokerage accounts, and fee-based planning to really meet our clients' needs on several different levels. Today, our show is going to go into a direction of the financial inventory and where do you stand financially. And it's time, if you haven't already, to take a look at your inventory. And when we're in this show, we're going to pull out several areas that you probably haven't yet considered a part of your assets, in who you and what makes you, what makes up your finances.
I'm pretty excited about this show. There's a lot of simplicity to it, but I think there's a lot of information people are going to glean from the experiences we've had working with people over the years in doing financial inventories. I got some really good stories of things discovered and things made aware and so forth during that time. So I'm pretty excited about that. At the beginning of each show, though, we do a segment that we like to call Money in the News. And we are going to bring to you a few financial stories, usually financial stories, that depends on what John actually brings to the table. Sometimes his aren't financial. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, Ben, here's how I look at it. Sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's shocking. Sometimes it's hard to believe what we're going to talk about, which I think is kind of how we would categorize this first article. So McDonald's is in the news. If you haven't seen it, folks, McDonald's is in the news. 2 people in Florida are suing McDonald's for charging them for unwanted cheese on their quarter pounders. So there's 2 McDonald's customers out in Florida who are suing the fast food giant for, get this, a hefty $5 million, because they say they're being unfairly charged for cheese they don't want on the burgers. So Cynthia Kistner and Leonard Werner argue that hamburgers and cheeseburgers are different prices on the McDonald's menu, but when they order a quarter pounder without the extra dairy, they're still forced to pay the same amount. So according to the lawsuit here, filed on May 8th in Fort Lauderdale, they're seeking class action status here. They're saying that McDonald's used to sell 4 different quarter pounders options, 2 of which came without cheese and cost between 30 to 90 cents less. But at some point, the lawsuit claims that the restaurant stopped separately displaying these products for purchase on menus and currently lists the availability of quarter pounder with cheese and double quarter pounder with cheese. So since this change, the customers have been forced and continue to be overcharged for these products by being forced to pay for 2 slices of cheese, which they don't want, order, or receive to be able to purchase their desired product.
You know
what is going on here?
They're also being charged for a whole lot of cholesterol and calories.
What if you don't want the sesame seeds?
Hey, guys, I don't know about you guys. Seth and Ben, I am joining today officially, after the show is done, I am joining this class action lawsuit because I am outraged at the fact that I have been overpaying. And I'm done. I'm done with it. Can you guys believe it? A $5 million
Isn't the lawsuit supposed to be within the amount of potential harm or reasonable harm that you've had? How could these two people claim that they have a $5 million harm? It's cheese.
Matters how many they're ordering. I mean, if they're ordering like millions a week, I mean, but
this is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
I hope some judge I hope McDonald's fights this thing.
Oh, I'm sure.
Instead of just like
they'll bring their team of attorneys.
Here's $100,000. Go away.
Hopefully, they'll provide meals too during the law
without
the trial.
cheese.
Yeah, without cheese. No cheese for
I'm
you.
just imagining John like walking out of the room, stomping his feet and shaking his fists furiously and throwing a tantrum. What kind of children are these that are just?
Maybe they're the kids of the people that sued for the people that got the coffee spilled on them from McDonald's.
They should simply say, we serve it with cheese. You choose not to have cheese. That's your choice. This is what we sell.
And if you don't want to pay for it, you don't pay for it. No, it's just ridiculous. Well, I don't know.
If you don't want to buy that quarter pounder because it has cheese on it, we're doing you a favor. We should charge you for the time and effort it takes our people not to put cheese because they're trained to put cheese on it. So they have to actually make a special thing that should actually cost them more.
Right. So you're saying that you put the option back on the menu, but you raise the price from no cheese, like it's a $2 burger with cheese and it's a $2.50 burger without. Is that what you're suggesting?
No. I'm saying you should say yes, exactly. The price should be higher because it takes more time and effort on their part to have to write in, please don't add cheese, et cetera, and be like, here, actually, we've been undercharging you this whole time, and we're going to reverse sue you for $5 million. Thank you for pointing out the problem.
I don't think they have $5 million. They might be living in a van down by the river, is my guess, because they're trying to get rich off of this thing and trying to get the class action thing going. Well, I know that we'll have 3 names. I'll add my name to that lawsuit. But anyways, a McDonald's spokesperson says this. The company does not believe the claims in this lawsuit have legal merit. The advertised quarter pounder burger comes with cheese. We try to accommodate our customers' requests by allowing them to customize their orders, such as quarter pounder with no cheese. So the spokesman also noted that the individual franchisees set their menu prices based on their respective markets. So anyways, that is ridiculous story number 1. How about this second story, though, guys? That's kind of interesting, too, I would say.
I do. I actually, you hear about these things. You hear about these things happening, and you're saying to yourself, why doesn't this stuff happen to me, right? But there's always that one person out there that has it. So this family going through their attic finds a, how do you pronounce this?
King Dynasty vase?
Yeah, but spelled with a Q.
King. Yes, a Chinese
Q-I-N-G, King Dynasty
Asian
vase.
Which I think makes it a zh.
Oh,
doesn't it?
Let us consult our language coordinator here on the Brayshaw.
I'm going to ask my 5-year-old because she probably knows.
Jing Dynasty vase.
Jing.
How much is it worth, Ben?
$600,000 they estimate, which I don't understand because the article goes on to say that there's a similar vase out there of the same historic time frame that sold for $30 million.
I don't even. Why only $600,000? I'd be disappointed. I'd be very disappointed if I found my vase was only worth $600,000.
Yeah.
So this family,
Navajo
had
blanket was worth wherewithal
to go to an auctioneer, to Sotheby's, and actually say, what do you think about this? But this wasn't the only thing they found. They found art and all sorts of stuff. That's
a bronze mirror. Yeah. It says, Sotheby's says the vase is of exceptional rarity, the only known example of its kind. They say this, though. In April, a Famille Rose porcelain bowl sold in Hong Kong for over $30 million, like Ben was saying. Yeah, can you imagine? So today, we're going to spend some time talking about a lot of things. Sometimes people don't understand they have value in different things, but today we're going to talk about that. So really what we'd like to do is we'd like to, before we get going here, go ahead and take a break, and we will be right back with you.
You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Hi, my name is Seth Krussman, partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. One of the biggest concerns and largest expenses people face today is taxes. Without thoughtful planning, taxes can destroy future retirement dollars, eliminating the possibility of a timely retirement or dreams of what you want retirement to look like. If you're like most people, you're getting closer and closer to retirement, and you may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. Will my income be enough? Will rising taxes force me to give up my dreams? How does inflation factor into all of this? These are real concerns, and you're not alone. Putting a plan around your financial future is what we do. If you have questions when it comes to your financial security, and if you're looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group, 855-226-8551. It's time for you to start getting answers to your questions. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, Brayshaw Financial has offices across the country. We'd love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to meet with us. Call us at 855-226-8551. 855-226-8551.
More Money on Tap in just a moment. On this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, John Ryder and Ben Brayshaw discuss some of the pitfalls that come with poor financial planning in retirement and the necessity for a healthy strategy to make the most of your money in your later years.
I have $500,000 for my retirement, but I really want to drive a Maserati.
In which I need to pay cash for most of the time.
Yeah. So I guess I haven't looked at the list price of a Maserati lately, but
A couple $100,000.
Yeah. So probably not wise, but so that might be an exaggeration of someone spending money. But you know what? Oftentimes we see people will look at maybe buying a second home a few years before they retire. They're not downsizing their current home, but they're buying a second home without really thinking about, hey, I need to think about income streams. I need to think about how much money I'm going to need on a monthly basis once I retire.
I mean, I have seen so many different people blow it early. They have these things that they feel like they need to do, and, they're going to just lump sum cash out. I mean, I've seen where people get very afraid about retirement and all the expenses. I worked with one person one time in which they wanted to put 3 years worth of expenses in cash. I mean, we might have even been 4. And I remember sitting next to one of the other planners there, and it was like, and the expenses were 4 years worth of taxes. I was like, well, if you can't create enough income to cover your current expenses that you're so afraid you got to put 4 years away, you're really not planning for retirement. You're planning for a period of time. It's like a vacation, your 4-year vacation.
Sure. I think a lot of retirees fall into the trap of overdoing it right after they stop working. So they have all this free time on their hands, and okay, now it's time to put on the new deck. Now it's time to get all new appliances. Now it's time to do all this stuff. So they have more free time, but maybe less discretionary income than they've ever had before.
The round the world trip?
Yeah, exactly. So it can also have some pretty major repercussions on a retirement plan. So one of the biggest risks that you face after you retire is called the sequence of returns risk. So it basically says that if you have a big hit to your finances, you'll have a greater impact earlier in your retirement plan. So if you lose a lot of money early on in your retirement plan, that can really wreak havoc for funding your retirement later on.
Well, I think the big issue there is the ability to reclaim those assets. In other words, going back to work. If you spend the first 5 years spending down your assets, and let's say you retire at 65, 70, it's harder to go back to work. It's harder to find a job. And then we always talk about if you have the first 5 years of retirement being down years in the market, that's a whole nother issue. So you got this compounded loss. So you're drawing more money out. The market might be going down. And then how do you rebuild that asset? And again, people are living longer. You don't know how long you're going to need that money for.
Find out more about three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning with Ben Brayshaw, Seth Krussman, and John Ryder on their weekly radio program, Money on Tap. Now back to Money on Tap with Ben Brayshaw, John Ryder, and Seth Krussman.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals, experience, and some fun in what we call three-dimensional planning. Now, you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
So today we're going to spend some time talking about taking inventory when it comes to your financial planning. You know, Ben, I know all of us, when I'm thinking about all of us here had dads that were business owners. My dad was in a boat business. Ben, your dad was in a printing business. Seth, your dad, dental guy, a dentist.
He was a dentist, yeah.
A dental guy. Yeah, he's a dental guy.
Or dental guy.
Dental guy, sure. So here's a dentist.
Love you, Harry. Sorry, Harry. I didn't say that.
So what all of them found important at one time in their
You just
year.
alienated one of our fans, John.
I'm sorry, Dr. Krussman. I'm sorry about that.
That was my one listener over here in Hillsborough.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys.
Oh, stop.
So anyway, inventory is a very important thing to do. I remember in my dad's business, twice a year we take inventory. My dad had these large greenhouses for his boat business. He had a boat business in Bristol, Rhode Island, and he had these large greenhouses. And he had, for all his different lines of boats, he had many different lines of boats that he made, but he would have a ton of different parts. If you can just imagine, a 55-foot boat, a 56-foot boat, imagine how many parts come on that. Everything from sails to cleats to hydraulic, you name it. And so every single year, actually every 6 months, we'd do an inventory on that. And basically what would happen is a lot of things would shut down. He would take a lot of his workers and kind of put them on inventory. And so we'd go through and we'd actually just go through and literally count how many of this do we have for this model, how many for this model. And so it would take a couple of weeks, and it was a hot job too, because I remember that was done in the middle of summer. And I remember that it would just take a long time. We'd just go through and count. And very boring. But what it did is it gave him a very good baseline to know what he had. And it's kind of a little bit different today. Think about today as far as inventory goes. It's a whole different deal, right, with computers and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tax thing that they had to do. And I didn't understand that as a kid, but I do remember, oh, man.
You did the same thing, huh?
Oh, we used to count. So the thing is like people are like paper. There's like white paper. There's... How much paper counting could you possibly do? And it's like
this weight and that weight and right.
Well,
sheet by sheet. Did you get into? Is that how it works? It's like you're like
Ben's counting 500 reams.
Sheet of paper.
They have stabbers that tell you how many sheets of paper are.
Yeah.
Based on a weight and so forth, and you'd have to go through. And the level of inventory he had, and I mean the colors. I mean, there's not just white.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's not just like ivory. I mean, there's reds and greens, and I mean. Crazy stuff, and then you'd have like 23 by 35, and then you have 17.5 by 22.5, and all these different sizes.
I can't take all the numbers, but I can't take it.
It's crazy, yeah. I mean, but the thing is we had clipboard after clipboard. There's 4 or 5 of us going through the warehouse of just paper after paper after paper, and it was just an overwhelming task, honestly.
Yeah, no, it sounds a lot harder than ours over here. My dad just had a drill and a toothbrush. That's all he had to keep track of.
He had to keep track of the samples he was giving out. He had to keep track of But so inventory, when it comes to financial planning, is very important. And we want to really separate our show into 2 parts today. The first we want to talk about is taking inventory when it comes to your cash and your cash flow. And then the second part we're going to talk about is really taking inventory when it comes to your assets. So before we get into that second part, let's talk about really the cash flow side of things. Many times when we're talking with people and we'll sit down with a couple, we find that maybe one spouse is very, very, very clear on where the money is coming from and where the money is going. And sometimes the second spouse, the husband or the wife, has no idea where the money is coming from or has no idea where it's going. And so I think sometimes getting on the same page here is really, really important when it comes to cash flow. Because if you have, let's say you have a decent income coming in. Let's say you have $100,000 coming in a year. It's very easy for people to have $105,000 going out a year if they don't have a clue on where their money is going.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So one of the things we practice in my marriage is talking about money on a regular basis. Like that's one of the things. I mean, we did a marriage show last week or the week before.
Yeah, we
talk about it. We hey, listen, we spent too much money on that. We both acknowledge it and say, all right, we're going to move on from that. We're going to cut back and we're going to make So everyone kind of gives and goes on this stuff. But what's interesting is we talk about multiple phases in the financial world, and one of them is the accumulation phase, right? Accumulating assets, and then we talk about the distribution phase. And when you talk about those 2 phases, kind of like that transition from accumulating your assets to retiring, a lot of that has to do with managing the financial movement of the dollars coming through the door every day, every week, every month, every year.
And it's funny, Ben, too, because it's not really all that complicated. I mean, sometimes financial planning can be very complicated, but basically what you want to do is, if you haven't done it before, and sometimes we help people walk through this when they come into our office, but it's really assessing, again, where the money is coming from. That's, again, the fairly simple part, because you know from your job how much money you have coming in. But then it's really a good idea to really sit down and to go over and say, okay, well, we have $1,100 going out for the mortgage. We have $500 going out for taxes. We have, and once you have a very clear understanding, you know at the end of the month, you either have discretionary income or you don't, or you're going in the hole every month. But just having a starting base of knowing where you are as far as when it comes to cash flow. Because one of the things that we're going to come back with as advisors later on is we're going to, once we know what the assets are, when we get to the second part of our show, we're really going to assess, well, how much money do we need to put aside on a regular basis out of the money that you have in order to make retirement affordable at age 60 or 65 or 67, whatever the case may be. But really tracking spending patterns, I think, is a very important thing to do. And Ben, actually, we have a something on our website that actually helps people with that in our client portal that actually helps people be able to track where their spending is and where it's not.
Well, no, and I think that's one thing. It's practicing what you preach. It's like we have... And we believe that if people can at least be aware of their spending, you don't have to live. I mean, if people don't want to live by a hard-nosed budget with like, okay, I'm only going to spend $103.02 at the store today or whatever the number is. If that's not how they're going to live, just being aware of your finances is enough to get started. To realize, hey, I am spending a lot of money over here or there or whatever. And our client portal that we provide for our clients allows them to do all the budgeting, to drag in all the information from their credit cards and their debit cards and their bank accounts and all that stuff so that they can actually categorize it and see it extremely easy. We want to provide that service to our people so that they ultimately can really at least get started with awareness.
Yeah, there's a guy named Mark Knoll. He's a certified public accountant out of Smyrna, Tennessee. And basically what he recommends that clients just at least for a whole month, just track the spending, just for a month, just so they can get an idea of where it goes. And Ben, I know you've often mentioned this before. Hey, if you're ending up spending $120 at Starbucks every month, you know it's too much. And then you realize, well, maybe I need to cut back in these different areas just to make it so you don't want to spend ridiculous money for sure.
Yeah, just connecting with your finances on a regular basis allows a lot of things to transfer the information and the actions that you're taking. Like you mentioned, I mean, Starbucks is such a classic, I think, for us current
$5, not Starbucks, $5.
Yeah. It's a line item in most people's budget today, really, is the coffee. But when they take a look at that and what are their habits, it's like, well, maybe I don't need to go to Starbucks, 3 times a day. Seriously, people, this is what we do. Or maybe it's not the $5 coffee drink. Maybe I pick up a black coffee 2 out of the 3 times that I'm going to Starbucks.
Maybe you make it at home, Seth. Just make it at home.
What's that?
Maybe you just make it at home, Seth. You don't have to buy a coffee. Just make it at home.
Really, it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting how people will just self-regulate just based off of what the information is. Really, I mean, that's the connection that we have. And you're right. I mean, maybe it is a coffee at home or something. And it's funny because I think sometimes the perception is like when we're going through the exercise, really, is what's most important to us is let's just go through the exercise and find out what we find out. And you can decide what's important for you when you're going through the process.
And really what I think is the best thing is to start from the most expensive category. Like if we're figuring out how to create the budget here, figure out what the most expensive dollars that you're spending. Usually it starts with necessities like housing, utilities, food, transportation expenses. Then you want to work your way down from that to the most essential to the least essential. And then if you've done that tracking, you know that with the least essential, maybe that's something that you just get rid of altogether. And that may be that Starbucks spending or whatever.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people hear when we talk like this is, I don't want to give that up. That's something that's special to me. That's a time in my life or a place in my life. And I think what really needs to be said in this space right here is it's not about the things that you care about. It's about the ones you don't. So if going to Starbucks 3 times a week or 3 times a day or 3 times an hour is the one thing that you are not going to give up, then figure out
something else.
Figure out the things that aren't important to you.
That gym membership that you haven't used for 3 months now. Yeah, maybe that's something.
Or maybe there's a different gym membership. If you're not using it as frequently,
sure.
I would want to encourage exercise and health because I'll tell you, that makes people very much more able to deal with a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Right. There's a lot of things that get kind of picked up is what I call it when we're just living our lives. There's the $5 expense over here that anytime Kira and I are going through and doing the exercise ourselves, we're like, what is that? I don't know. Do you know what that is? I don't know. And it's a $5 thing, but still, it's nice to at least know what that is, because we just pick up these little incidental expenses as we live our lives and we travel.
That's how it's working nowadays. I think there's so many things. How many checks are we writing every month? I mean, okay, so you might write your mortgage out. I don't know if you're doing it on automatic or what, but for the most part, things are going automatically. And you're right, we have so many different things, and we have money coming out here. It might not be a lot, but at the end of the month, boy, it all adds up. And if you don't know what it's going for, you probably want to find what that is.
That's the problem with credit cards.
Yeah,
and the automatic charging stuff. That's what kills you, because you don't realize. You're not assessing that. You're like, oh, well, these are only my expenses. Then you realize how many things, and everything seems to be shifting towards a monthly fee, because they want recurring revenue in these companies, and it's ridiculous. It's killing people.
Ben, I was paying $5 a month for some kind of fax service that I had, and I just been doing that consistently, coming out of the debit card, and all of a sudden I see it's up to $30 a month, and $30 a month for fax service. Now I use the fax service quite a bit, but it just seemed like it was just out of proportion. And so it's time to revisit. Maybe it's time to shop around when you see things like that go up. But yeah, I think that you're exactly right. Companies like recurring revenues. It's very, very easy for them to keep on charging, and it's easy for us to keep on paying, isn't it? But when we know, maybe it's time to change things.
That's where our client portal is so helpful, is because that awareness it brings. Like, when you're going through the expenses, you're kind of like, oh, classifying here, and stuff. At least you're looking at the stuff, and you're getting a glance, and you're going to catch more than you realize. And bringing that kind of to the forefront is the first step to really getting a hold of things. We with people that we've helped get out of debt and so forth, people who are really struggling with debt, who've been referred to us just to help as a gratuitous scenario, getting them on this is the first thing we do. And that is just, I mean, even if it's not like, it's not instant changes, it's small steps, but all of a sudden they realize, wow, I'm saving a lot of money. Wow, I didn't realize I was doing that.
Wow, my cable bill's $145 because I'm getting, NASCAR or whatever. Yeah,
right.
It's just,
crazy stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's very good just to kind of get people to get a good idea of, hey, do we really want this anymore? Is this really needed, or are we just putting unnecessary dollars out, dollars maybe that we don't even have?
You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters. We're going to take a quick break. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Hi, my name is Ben Brayshaw, one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. If you have questions when it comes to your retirement and are looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group. In today's volatile stock market, we can help you plan to find your successful retirement solution. Am I saving enough? Am I saving into the right places? Do my investments match my appetite for risk? Do I have a tax strategy that is going to help me keep more of what I earn? How can I maximize my Social Security income? If you are like most people, you are getting closer and closer to your retirement and may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. If you're in retirement, you may be wondering, am I maximizing my income while preserving my estate and caring for my family? We talk about all things financial in what we call three-dimensional investing, putting a plan around your financial future. If you feel that now is the time to start getting the answers to some of these questions for your own situation, give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices throughout New England and across the country. We would love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation just to meet with us, and we welcome you to our office. Call us at 855-226-8551.
More Money on Tap in just a moment. On this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, Seth, Ben, and John show us there's plenty to celebrate with the tax reform plan, especially in the way of education and the 529 college savings account.
Part of what we can do more, and actually just got written into the code now, how do we help parents with their kids and their planning and this path that they're on, especially within education, being a big part of what we've been needing more shoring up maybe in our culture, the education piece. Basically, the point is that education, public or private, is basically the thing that we're trying to take a look at and understand. How do we move into different opportunities with our education and create better education? Well, the 529 college savings account has been a post grade 12 plan for savings and funding college.
Stuff, yeah.
Right. Well, that now is open to K through 12. for people that are using that as a tool for private education. I think a huge opportunity, depending especially where you live in the U.S. and what your state tax code might be. In Oregon, it's a great opportunity for people that are doing that.
This is just pointing to another middle class benefit. I mean, people who say, hey, my child's gifted. I've been putting away a few bucks a month to try to help save for their college education. But you know what? And we have a client, John, right, who's saved for 529. Child's probably going to get a full scholarship to college.
Yeah, and right now they're looking at private boarding school for her going into her 10th grade year, I think it is.
She won't need to pay for college at all.
Yeah, she'll have scholarship.
This is a huge opportunity for them.
For sure.
These are great things. I mean, these are huge positives that are like for every day. I was just thinking about it, John. So average family, 2-3 kids. But if you have 3 children, okay.
And I do.
And you do. That's a $6,000 tax credit, right? If you're in a 25% tax bracket, let's say you made a donation to charity of $24,000.
Yeah.
Your tax savings on that is $6,000, 25% tax bracket.
Yeah.
That's the equivalent. That's a ton of money realized back to you.
Going to the middle class, once again, not just for the rich people there.
Thanks for joining us for this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, with great tips from the pros in 3-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. Now here's more Money on Tap with Seth, Ben, and John.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals, experience, and some fun in what we call 3-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about the financial inventory. Oh, what fun it is to do an inventory, folks, because if you've ever spent any time doing work anywhere, I'm sure you can relate to the inventory. But at the same time, how can an enterprise be successful without one? And that's what we're talking about, is the enterprise of our personal finances, our business finances, and creating some understanding around, what is our cash flow? How much do we have coming in? How much do we have going out? After that, what are we going to take a look at? We're going to track some patterns that we have going on maybe with our spending. Some of us are kind of seasonal business owners, or, Kira's in real estate, for instance. There's an ebb and flow, or there's the right now we're getting prepared for all of our kids' summer activities. Holy cow.
Talk about inventory. Yeah. Lacrosse sticks, soccer balls, basketballs, cleats.
Yeah. Like the year wasn't like just the regular scheduled school year wasn't enough. So after that, we kind of start to we want to categorize things. So we're kind of, we're going from the larger, and we're starting to get a little more understanding and categorizing some of our spending. And then guess what? We're going to start to create a budget out of that. And I think that's the one that most of us put on. If we're even attempting the financial inventory, eventually we're going to start to get to that B word in our activity here today.
I have a client that just is in the process right now of retiring. She's going to retire in the next couple of weeks here. Wonderful lady here in New Hampshire. She's 72 years old. She has just done a great job of accumulating assets over time. But it's funny, she's moving and retiring to Pennsylvania to live closer with her daughter. The interesting thing is, she told me with her house, she said, I have accumulated so much over the years, and now I have to figure out what I have and what I want and what I need to get rid of before she makes this move. And it's really the same thing. When it comes to financial assets, we've all, over the years, especially if you're 60 plus, we've all accumulated a huge amount of things. It may be chairs, pictures, tables, furniture, all that kind of thing. But when it comes to the financial assets, we have a lot of those too. And being able to do a good job of figuring out what we have and really assessing why we have them is very, very important.
Well, I found that, when we do these financial inventories, it's amazing the amount of information that the questions we ask and the things like we have a financial questionnaire that we send out to people before they come and meet with us.
Yeah.
We ask them, fill it out as best you can. Don't labor over it. This is not a grueling, you have to get every detail. Ballpark it.
Nor is there a score, a test at the end for if you got it all there.
It's really to start a conversation, because ultimately we know you don't know everything. We know you don't have a grasp on everything. That's, and it's okay to acknowledge that, hey, I need help, or hey, I just want some assistance in this, because some people are completely capable, but they're also working 8-10 hours a day, and they've got a few kids, and they've got a wife, and they've got sports and this, that, and the other thing, and they need someone who handles this stuff just to give them that extra edge. Those types of things are helpful. And the financial questionnaires, these inquisitive things, it doesn't take more than 5 or 10 minutes. Fill out what you can, and then people say, well, I think I have something here. I have no idea what's in it.
Yeah.
And I think I have something here, and I used to work here. And every time we meet with people, we have an update sheet. It's amazing how many people switch jobs in between meeting with us, and they totally forget to tell us, or they sold their house and they bought a new one.
Ben, tell the story about the advisor that I was mentioning earlier, that we were talking to earlier last week. I guess we were talking to him.
Oh yeah, so we have an advisor who, working with these people for 10, 15, 20 years. Long time. I mean, they were
good relationship.
Yeah, the guy, he's like, I manage everything other than a couple of retirement plans that with the company, and. So what's really interesting about this was they knew there was something out there at, I think it was Fidelity or something like that.
Yeah, they had a statement. They didn't know, they haven't gotten it in a while.
They thought it was like $60,000 or $80,000, which is a lot of money.
Yeah, they hadn't gotten their statement in a long time. So they're like, yeah, maybe, I don't know if we signed up for email, we got a different email or something like that.
Well, what happened was, I guess the email they either gave or whoever inputted it or something was an error email. Like it was some sort of mistake, or the email was whatever happened, but they signed up for email statements, so they never got a statement on the thing. They call up and they're like, yeah, we want to transfer this account XYZ, and he's like, can we get a current balance on the account? It's like $600,000.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they thought it was
in excess
$50,000.
Yeah, they thought it was like $50,000-$60,000. It was like in excess of $600,000. And they're like, they have no idea. They like trying to get the history, and I guess there was a pension plan in the background that was just rolled into it that they must have gotten some paperwork at work and signed and said, okay, yeah, move it or whatever. I mean, it was just an enormous. They had no idea. They literally were like, and he was still working. This was the wife's.
Yeah,
he was still working, and he's like, I'm going to retire.
Yeah, I mean, they actually found this. It's kind of like finding that vase we were talking about earlier in the program. They found the vase, or they found the account, and that's a very unusual thing. But boy, that was just crazy.
But the thing is I can't tell you how many times, and not to this level, but how many times I've sat with people and we have found assets that they didn't realize or weren't aware of. I had a person who had a pension at Boeing, had no idea what it was worth. I had a person who they believed they had 2 accounts at Fidelity. Turned out there was 3. People, today's world, people are working more and more jobs. And as the people who are retiring, the baby boomers who are retiring, they maybe started out at a job for 15, 20 years, but then they started, doing that 3 to 5 year switch like, everyone seems to do now.
Yeah.
And you can't really count on people being around for long periods of time. So now you have people having multiple retirement plans over and over and over again. And they're just like, oh yeah, I got $20,000 there. Next thing you know, they're like, well, I got $200,000 in miscellaneous retirement stuff.
Yeah.
Some people are listening to this saying, wow, $200,000, it's a lot of money. What happens is that it happens so frequently, people don't realize. I was talking to a contractor the other day, and he was saying, I got a client who's going over, and they have no idea how over they are because everything's $4,000 or $3,000, whatever. He's like, they're $120,000 over in their building project.
Oh my goodness.
And he's going through it with them, and they're like, wow, I guess it really adds up to that much. I think it's kind of like when you use your credit card, you're like, how could the balance be that high? I don't remember spending that much money. And then you say to yourself,
I didn't.
oh, wow. Okay, this was at Hannaford, and that was at Walmart, and this was at
and then my interest.
Starbucks. yeah. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, it really is that much. I mean, you kind of in that surreal moment. That happens a lot, especially when someone's hitting that 60 to 65-year-old range with us, and we sit down and we start doing that financial inventory, and you really start adding up all the pieces. And then you start seeing what those pieces in a collective can actually do for you when you figure out something that works in harmony with itself.
Guys, have you ever seen that? It's kind of like I've got an email once in a while that says you may have assets with like the state of New Hampshire or the state of Oregon. And I always wonder, I wonder if I have any money on that list. Now, I don't think I do, but there's people, I actually have some clients that got about $5,000. They got an email saying that they had some assets, and it turned out to be some old property that had some taxes left over in an account with the municipality, and they ended up getting about $5,000 back. This was 25 years later, and they finally got contacted. But sometimes you move and your contact information changes, and they don't know how to get hold of you, and before you know it, and the nice thing is these people were able to add that to their retirement account, so it worked out pretty well for them. So
it's amazing, I think, when you really realize, the little things that, a lot of people think that financial planners are all about, managing this big retirement plan, this, that, the other thing. But financial planning is an all-inclusive event. The big, the small, maybe even what you might think is irrelevant or something, things that you're like, well, they're not going to worry about that, or they're not going to deal with this. The whole story is about finding success. And however we do that, however that's managed to get you to the point where you can have a successful outcome, whatever that is, if you're saving for a car, or if you're saving for retirement, or you're building a 529 plan for your child, or whatever that story is, working with somebody, even in the small pieces, will help make the final outcome more likely. And
I want to reflect on something else too. Not only is it important just for your future to know, where you have your money and where it's going and all that, but it's very important too. We find 9 times out of 10, we have one spouse that's very, very engaged with the financial process and one spouse that isn't. What happens if something happens to the spouse that is the financially literate one, the one that's always keeping track of that? Do you know that having this inventory on hand is a very, very nice thing? In fact, I have a client of mine that writes a letter every single year to his family. Every single year, around the same time of year. In fact, he asked me for his asset list at the end of the year, and I give it to him. And then he writes his family a letter every single year to let them know, well, here's where I have my IRA. Here's where we have the Roth IRAs. Here's where, just gives this full inventory, for lack of a better word, for his whole financial situation. Here are the life insurance policies. Here are the long-term care if something happens to me, or disability. And I can tell you, if and when something happens to this guy, if it happens to him before his wife, who's not clued in really on the situation, it is a very, very easy document. And just to update that every year, I think shows a lot of care and concern for that spouse, to be able to know that, hey, if something happens, we know exactly where everything is. We're not going to be rushing through and trying to figure out and scramble and all this at the last minute. No, we know exactly where things are, and Dad's made it easy for us. My husband has made it easy for me in putting everything in one place. So it's not this complicated thing, figuring out passwords and all that. No, they know where it is because they took the time up front to do that, and really took the time and the care to actually write a letter and to say, hey, this is how we have this set up. And I think that makes it very, very nice each and every year.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I have clients that have done the similar things, written letters, love letters along with that information. I actually had one client, who's still a client, a retired colonel, and he was like, listen, I handle all the finances. She doesn't do anything. So
she does nothing.
And he's like, I'm interviewing financial planners, and he's like, I'm looking for somebody she can connect with and learn from, and so forth. And he had done a great job managing his money. I was very, very impressed. And he's been a client well over a decade at this point. And and she, I remember she used to come to the meetings, and
she's kind of tuning out, right?
Yeah, tuning out big time. Tuning out big time. But now we talk about things. We have, and he's like, I just need you to force her to engage enough that she can understand. She can understand what you're talking about, because she doesn't even understand the lingo, the language.
It's just not of interest to her. I understand that. Yeah.
It's not her thing. So it's just interesting that there is that disparity, but it's not that the other person lacks the ability. It's just someone just has the affinity towards it. Really, most of the time.
Yeah, for sure.
I think one of the things that I've had more conversations lately with business owners around is their experiences with their grandparents or family members that haven't gone through this process for, I don't know, call it 20 years. There was a length of time that they just, they did everything that they were supposed to. They got their will established. Maybe they had some kind of a trust or something along those lines. But in the process of the time between they last revisited a will, they accumulated a lot more of assets, and a lot of things that the will wasn't really engaged around, as far as what to do with these kind of assets and how that is, that can be really detrimental to, the rest of your family if they're trying to go through probate and, take care of things of the estate, after grandparents, parents pass away. And this is just one of those activities that I think can really help kind of bring things full circle for people to make sure that, whatever they have, whatever vehicles they have outside of these assets, giving direction when they pass away, that there's something in there for them. And the other part that I think a lot of people have really engaged around, you talk about the client portal, we talk about the client portal, and this is a significant part of trying to understand not only, the financial inventory, right? The assets that we have, A to Z in different places, but how those interact and how those, work together. But then also, bringing in other types of assets that aren't typically thought of. And this has changed a lot over the last 5 years, I would say. And that is your kind of like your online assets. Those are your passwords. Those are your health directives. Those are, some of those other things that we want to make sure that at some point in time, if anything happens, there's a plan around that, and there's a way to pass those things over so that people aren't left in the dark spending. Frankly, a year can be a very short period of time to try to unwind what a person has accumulated in their lifetime and where it's supposed to go and how it's supposed to be directed.
Well, I think that's one of the things that makes it viably different, is that when we link the assets we manage, and then you realize that you can link your bank accounts, your credit cards, your 401ks.
We don't even have to manage it. Yeah,
we don't have to manage it. That you can bring it all under one umbrella. That the husband and wife can both have access to it. The other thing that is significantly unique and beneficial to us in our client portal is that we have the vault. And John, you were talking about, and Seth, you were talking about the privacy around some of the other information you have, like passwords and this, that, and the other thing. We have a shared and an unshared area in the vault. It's totally encrypted.
So you're saying that we don't necessarily see, if it's locked, then we as advisors don't see any of it.
But you can store your password lists or whatever you want in there for your spouse, saying, "Hey, here's all my access to this, that, and the other thing." We can't see it. But there's a shared side that we can share stuff with you. So we can put your trusts in there. We can put your wills and your documents. And what's amazing about it is healthcare directives and power of attorneys. I can't tell you how many people love that feature, because I have one couple that used to take their health. He was very sick, and they love to travel.
Yeah.
But the healthcare directives, I was like packing their passport constantly.
Yeah.
This thing has a phone app that you can literally email the doctor the healthcare directive.
Isn't that tremendous? What a great technology to be able to do that.
It's just amazing to do that. It's all encrypted. But these are the types of things that enable you to do that. We also have, when we do financial plans for people, we have the progress reporting that we do that includes all the assets as well. We bring kids in. I mean, we were just talking to a client the other day about bringing their children in to talk to them about, because of the power of attorney and, the things that are going to happen and so forth. We have clients who have passed away, and we're working with the other spouse with their children now, and there's that whole progression. I have a person who's becoming a client who's, the daughter of somebody, and it's just we have a nice relationship. She's local, it's that kind of thing, and it's like, hey, I'm happy to work with you. It's been a great relationship over the last 15 years of working with her parents. Her dad died, and so there's the constant progression of working with people and developing those things, But as technology changes and going through all the different pieces, the wills, the trusts, as you mentioned, Seth, what kind of trust you have, those are the questions that come out of the conversation with the financial inventory. Because people say, yes, I have a trust, and it's dated 1995, and then my will is dated 1992. It's like it's still telling who's going to take care of Johnny if something happens to you. But Johnny's now 50 years old.
Yeah, Johnny doesn't like being called Johnny anymore.
Yeah, he's not called Johnny anymore. He's 52 years old. He's an executive or runs his own company, or and it's completely out of date. But at least the financial inventories and these types of conversations help us clue you into the things that need to be priority. Number one, we know there's things that have to change or things you have to work on, but we can at least help you prioritize which one you should do first even.
And, I like the confidential questionnaire that we send out actually goes and lists some details I think that are really important. One of them is just a summary of personal financial information. Another one is critical contacts when it comes to personal context. So who is your life insurance guy? Who is your disability guy? Who are these different people that are the ones that need to be called when this happens? And those sometimes obviously need to be updated as people perhaps in the field retire. But those are very. Who is the person that drew up the will for your estate? Who did that? Very important to be able to have those identified. But each and every component, I think, of the questionnaire, there's a reason for it. And so having a summary of different documents, and then also of a list of assets and liabilities. Hey, how much money do you have in the checking? Where is that money? Do you have CDs there? 401ks, retirement accounts, deferred comp plans.
I had a client that used to bury money in their backyard.
Sounds like we're in New Hampshire, folks.
Yeah. and like... husband used to always joke. He's like, she'll have to go out there and dig up everything. Whatever. We'll deal our payments. Like
there's some Bible verse about where rust and moth doth corrupt. Yes, remember that whole story about burying your treasure? That really wasn't an advised thing back in Bible times either, was it?
No.
And Ben, you don't advise that today, do you?
No, I do not advise that at all. I have a number of clients who have gold bullion. Like they literally hold gold or silver. Those are types of common things, and that's more commonplace today than it's ever been.
True. You've been listening to Money on Tap. We've been having a lot of fun talking about your financial inventory and how critical this is in uncovering what do you have and understanding where you at, and really building a roadmap for what you would like to see happen. Sometimes that goes into a budget mode where you maybe want to start to, structure your finances a little bit differently. And sometimes that leads more into, an estate planning conversation and making sure that you have protection around all this hard work and the assets that you've been developing. So you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You've been listening to Money on Tap today. Hosted by Ben Brayshaw, John Ryder, and Seth Krussman. And we look forward to meeting with you down the road to do some financial planning with you and uncover what is a good plan for you and your future. Thanks a lot, guys.
Hello, my name is John Ryder, a partner with Brayshaw Financial Group and one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. 10,000 Americans are turning 65 every day, and planning a successful retirement today is more challenging than ever. With a roller coaster stock market, political and economic uncertainty, and so many unknowns when it comes to the escalating costs of healthcare. Let us show you how we utilize the 3D method of investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. Using our experience, let us help you plan for a successful retirement. Now is the right time to start getting help. Give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices across the country. We would love the opportunity to meet with you. There's absolutely no cost or obligation to meet with us, and we welcome you to our offices. Call 855-226-8551 today.
When you retire, will you have enough money to go the distance? Should you plan 20, 30, or even more years of retirement? On this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, Ben Brayshaw and John Ryder carefully consider this very question.
The average expected length of retirement by an investor is 22 years.
See, when I hear that 22 years, I think, wow, is that low?
Yeah, I do too.
We don't want people running out of money when they're 87.
Yeah, we have to plan past life expectancy because if we get Seth's wife's grandfather, as a client, and he's 95, and we've planned for
no signs of slowing down either.
Wow, that's
right.
great.
That's a real concern.
So investors out there feel like 22 years is what they plan for on average, and we as advisors plan on around 30.
I always think we got to make sure we're getting well into the 90s.
Into 100. Isn't that typically what we're looking at? About 100 years old.
And stability with inflation, all those things. And then usually we come to an agreement, like what's your longevity? What's your family history?
Sure.
And usually we add 5-10% to that.
For prudent planning. So there's different products out there that are designed to help with that.
See, this is the thing people don't understand. In an advisor, in our role, we have to fulfill essentially an almost unlimited or unpredictable time period. Like it could be 2 years and, oh, wonderful, you could have spent a lot more money, or it could be 40 years and we spent way too much money too soon. We don't have the ability to see that crystal ball. People can say, I only need 20 years of retirement, and they do their own planning and this, that, and the other thing. We have so much obligation to do right by people and to make sure that they're cared for properly.
Thanks for joining us for this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, with great tips from the pros in three-dimensional investing. utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.